Task Force Education Outreach and Training Committee of the City and County of San Francisco. Item 1, call to order. I think I just did that. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Member Pilpel?
Present.
Pilpel present. Member David?
Present.
David present. Member Highland? Highland absent. And Member Oka?
Present.
Oka present. Do you have a quorum?
Great. And I believe Member Highland is expected. For agenda changes, I have none, so I think we will just proceed in the order listed. So let's start with item 2, Madam Clerk.
Item number 2, file number 11084, hearing on the status of December 14th, 2011 order determination, Library Users Association against the Arts Commission for not providing an audio recording of a meeting.
Thank you. So I understand that we have in the past used the hearing procedures that are described on page 2 of the agenda, and in the absence of any changes, we will proceed on that basis. So why don't we hear from the complainant, Mr. Warfield. You'll have up to 5 minutes, and as I said, we'll follow the procedures here. We do have packet information before us, including a letter from Library Users Association dated April 22nd that is in the packet at length. So, Mr. Warfield, if you could explain to us the status of the complaint. And this was described in an email that I believe you received. Are there any other documents or changes in policies, practices, or procedures that you're seeking? And then we'll ask the respondent to explain what changes in policies, practices, or procedures have they made to address the complaint and avoid such a complaint in the future. And if both of you could tell us what other information the committee should know and what actions you would like us to take at this time, if any.
Could you tell me what email you're referring to, which you say I have received?
I believe that there was an email that went out on April 19th or the 22nd. Oh, actually, April 22nd. You referenced that in your communication.
Is that the email announcing the meeting being held here?
Yes, I believe so.
But that doesn't have any content relationship to the issue. It simply announced that there would be a meeting on this date a week later than the email.
Okay.
So I'm Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. I'd like to ask for a 1-minute warning from the administrator, if I might. We sent a letter to presumably each member of the task force, which concerned a number of issues that go beyond the specific complaint. But I'll read what we said regarding this specific complaint, which references activities more than 1.5 years old. Complaint number 11084, this is listed in the order of, I'm reading from my letter, page 3, your page 16. This is listed in the order of determination as our complaint about the Visual Arts Committee unlawfully not providing a required recording of its extremely important and crucial August 17th, 2011 meeting, at which the Visual Arts Committee, VAC, decided to approve destruction of the community-created Victor Hara mural on the Bernal Heights Branch Library, Bernal mural. The Arts Commission never produced the tape because, they said, no tape was ever made. Following our complaint, the Arts Commission evidently began recording its subcommittee meetings, we are not aware of any problems subsequently. Now, I did want to say something about your general procedures and considerations. Well, I don't think there's anything specific that we can ask for or are looking for. I do think that it's worth keeping in mind that these complaints are often as though looking through a tube at a specific activity or action, and that they often represent a piece of a larger pattern of activity which may be as bad or worse than the specific violation, and which as a whole add up to a series of violations which certainly the Arts Commission has been found to have done through multiple complaints and the task force agreeing that there were violations. Just since you were not, I don't believe any of you were on the task force when this happened, just to give you background, in July 2011, the Library Commission had a meeting at which a so-called community process was described and a decision about getting rid of a wonderful mural. I would like the attention of the folks present while I'm speaking.
Please proceed.
We were told at the Library Commission, I'm not a member of the library, I was at the commission, I'm on a public, we were told that the library's approval was requested for the replacement of the mural, and that this was requested because this was going to come up for approval at the Arts Commission. A member of the commission asked, so you want us to approve this in July so that it'll be
1 minute.
approved in August? And he said yes. She said no, it's coming up at the Arts Commission in September. When I contacted the Arts Commission in late August or early September, I asked the status of the Bernal mural and was told, oh, that's already been decided. I said, what? Oh, that's already been decided. That was the August 17th meeting of the Visual Arts Committee. I was flabbergasted. I then sought to obtain an audio recording of the meeting. Oh, we don't make recordings of those meetings. And when, a short time later, I requested minutes, draft minutes, I was basically told to cool my heels, and that was another violation. They wouldn't give me the draft minutes until the full Arts Commission agenda was coming out basically on a Friday prior to their regular meeting. So this is part of a whole series of issues. As I say, we're not asking for anything at this time.
Great. Thank you very much. If we have questions, we will be back to you. Are there any other parties to present facts and evidence in support of the complainant? Seeing none. Respondent, Ms. Paige Ritchie. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm the Commission. My name is Sharon Paige Ritchie, and I am the Commission Secretary at the San Francisco Arts Commission. So, as you are aware, the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force found that we were required to make audio recordings of committee meetings. It had been our understanding through our conversations with the City Attorney's Office that the subcommittees of the Arts Commission were not required to make audio recordings of the meetings. As of the beginning of last year, 2012, we have been recording all of our committee meetings, and the recordings are posted on our website. I'm not sure what else there is to address. If the task force has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
we'll get to questions in a bit. That's your statement?
I believe that that's really all that there is for us to say at this point.
Okay. And did you have anything in writing on that or not?
Nothing further. I mean, you have the materials in the record of the, let's see, December 13th, 2011 memorandum.
Right. But the point is you have nothing new to memorialize what you just...
We have nothing new. No, we sent our letter to the task force on October 19th, 2011 in preparation for this hearing, and we have no new information.
Okay. Stay tuned. We may have some questions. Thanks very much. Are there any other parties to speak in support of the respondent city? Seeing none, the matter is with the task force for discussion and questions. Member David.
I have a question for Ms. Ritchie.
Yes.
I'm kind of curious about or I should say, I'm a little bit concerned about the request for minutes. That it doesn't sound like that was well received, at least, from Mr. Warfield's point of view. Can you speak at all to that?
The minutes for each committee are prepared by specific staff members assigned to the committee. I don't know the exact specifics of the schedule of the Visual Arts Committee minutes for that event. I believe the situation was that the minutes were still being prepared and they were not expected to be complete. I think that I know that we have had some extensive training with the City Attorney's Office since that time, and upon request for other documents later have submitted whatever partial or rough versions of documents that we have been asked for. I think at that point it was the understanding was that the minutes were to be distributed as a final document, and there just was not the awareness of having to turn them over, in whatever state they happen to be at the moment.
Thank you.
Thanks. I may have a few questions. Member Oka?
The minutes that Mr. Warfield refers to, were those available? Are those available now?
They are now available, yes. They're posted on the website.
Were they available when he requested them?
They were not. They were draft minutes at the time that he requested them, is my understanding. And they were not. There was not a final document to produce. They were available at the time. They were posted along with all of the other materials in preparation for the full commission meeting that month.
Why were they not provided to Mr. Warfield?
As I said, I believe that there was a lack of understanding on the part of some of our staff about the requirement to supply incomplete or rough documents at the moment that they were requested. I believe that since we have had some training since then, and so we now understand that, and I believe that there was just an attempt to make sure that the document that was presented was legible and made sense.
Yeah.
All set? Thank you. Member Highland, any questions? Okay. So I have a couple here. Let me start with Mr. Warfield. I did review your letter to the task force dated April 22nd. I am requesting in the future that items before this committee that are referrals, that we get a copy of any email back and forth subsequent to the order of determination, so that we can understand who was notified and when, and whatever response was received, whether it's from you or another complainant or respondent. I think it's important to understand the timing and the context. I believe that the notice was sent just 7 days before the hearing pursuant to our procedures. If I'm incorrect about that, I'd like to know some more about it. And let's see, the purpose of this hearing is to determine compliance with the order. and if there's anything further that the committee or the task force needs to do or can do, then we'll consider that. Otherwise, we'll conclude the matter. And finally, and I'm just reading through page 3 of your 7-page document, page 16 of our packet, item 4, if the complaint was listed incorrectly on the website, that's been corrected. I looked at the website earlier, and it is listed as Library Users Association, Arts Commission, Order of Determination. So, Madam Clerk, did that get corrected on the website?
You said you saw it?
Yeah. Was that actually incorrect and that now got fixed? Okay. So thank you for calling that to our attention. That's been addressed.
Thank you. I wish the answer were on the record and we could hear a clear yes that the letter was correct about the erroneous listing online.
Okay. I think I've made clear that that was and has been addressed. So as to this particular complaint, 11084, you indicated that you are not aware of any problem. Subsequently, we've heard from the Arts Commission Secretary that they are now recording minutes of their committees and posting them to their website. Does that substantially address the complaint at this time?
Yes, it does. I do prefer when questions are asked of one side that the other side get an opportunity to respond, because there was a bit of an exchange here which I think could certainly use our perspective. They fought vigorously against the requirement to provide the draft minutes and vigorously fought against having to record meetings. This was a very bitter fight, which they lost in front of the full task force.
Okay, so
with
Mr.
respect
Warfield,
to the minutes,
Mr. Warfield, you'll have an opportunity for rebuttal in a moment. The order of determination that I read did not speak to, well, it did discuss minutes, although it refers to recording the minutes. I think that's actually should be record the meeting. And I didn't see in the decision anything specific about minutes. It did discuss recording meetings. So I think that's what we're here to discuss, and we're not actually relitigating the complaint itself. So I just wanted to make that clear.
That's correct.
So I don't have any further questions for you. Let me just check with Ms. Paige Ritchie, and then you'll have an opportunity for clarification and rebuttal. So Ms. Paige Ritchie, what you said is that you're now, just so that we're clear on the record, that you're now recording committee meetings and posting those recordings to the website, and you have not heard any complaints or concerns subsequent to that change in practice?
That's correct. We are now audio recording committee meetings that are held and are posting those audio recordings on the website.
Okay. And I'm not really addressing the issue of whether or not it's required. That was a decision of the previous task force, and we're not going to address that directly.
Right. They are being recorded.
In any event, and thank you. Okay, so I'm good with that. Respondent has an opportunity for clarification or rebuttal. Ms. Paige Ritchie, do you have anything further? Mr. Warfield, is your opportunity for clarification or rebuttal?
Peter Warfield, Library Users Association. Please let me know when I have a minute left, please. The issue with the minutes was heard separately as complaint number 11085, and in fact, the minutes you're about to approve on your page 106 from the May 10th meeting references hearing on the status, this is number 11085, hearing on the status of the December 14, 2011 order of determination of the Library Users Association against the Arts Commission for not providing the draft minutes of a meeting. With respect to Ms. Paige Ritchie's characterization of what the status of the minutes was, since one of your members asked that question. The reply that library users got when we requested draft minutes was that it was not their policy to release those prior to the release of the agenda packet, which came on a Friday afternoon before a Monday meeting of the Arts Commission. The Arts Commission certainly argued vigorously in that case, once again, that they were not required to have subcommittee draft minutes ready for review as required under Sunshine within 10 days for a charter-named body, because their subcommittee was not specifically mentioned in the charter. And of course, the Sunshine Task Force quite rightly said, you can't do that. Subcommittees are part of the big committee. And we argued, of course, and it was successful, that this, if it were accepted, would allow every commission and charter-named body to name a bunch of subcommittees to do the actual work and then not record minutes, not record meetings, and so on. As I said previously, there was also something the chair said earlier about everybody being notified. I'm not sure what that referred to. We sent our letter specifically asking that each member of the task force receive a copy. So I'm not sure what the chair was referring to when he commented about everybody should receive everything. We had hoped, actually, that the task force members would be receiving these things separately from the agenda or prior to the issuance of the agenda, so you'd have time to look at it, particularly because we had some procedural issues with the moving forward of the item. So as I said before, bottom line is I believe that the Arts Commission is now in compliance after a big battle that we started, and I'm glad that they are, appreciate that they are, and hope that they continue to stay in compliance on all matters. Sunshine, thank you.
Thank you. I personally don't see a need to take action, and I'd be supportive of us concluding the matter. Is there a motion from anyone otherwise?
Nope. Motion to conclude the matter.
I don't think we need a motion. I think we'll deem it concluded if there is no motion, but let's have an opportunity for public comment to see if there's anything further that might change that outcome.
Members of the OT, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. I'd like to point out the fact that I've been following the Arts Commission and its various subcommittees for about 2 years now. And for someone to come here 14 years after this law passed and say, well, we didn't know we were supposed to record public meetings, and we didn't have any idea that there's a deadline for minutes being posted online or being made available to the public, I think is just really stretching the credibility of everybody in this room. Now, what have you gotten from Ms. Paige Ritchie? You have gotten her statement that these meetings are going to be recorded. As far as I know, the Arts Commission itself has never at any time discussed this matter. In other words, the body who actually makes the rules and controls Ms. Paige Ritchie and all of the other employees acting has never discussed this and has never made any commitment to record meetings. Which means next week, Ms. Paige Ritchie could simply decide to stop recording the meetings, and we would have to go through this process again. It is ridiculous to think that these kinds of matters are resolved simply by an employee of an arts commission or whatever commission who can then simply randomly say, well, we're going to start doing something different. Now, they have a long pattern, and I'll tell you why it's important that these meetings are recorded. Mr. Warfield went to a meeting of the full Arts Commission, and he made some comments relating to some Sunshine Ordinance Task Force violations and recommended that they get some training, not from the city attorney, but from the task force. One of the members of the Art Commission, Mr. Cass Smith, said the following things to Mr. Warfield in response. Before his time was up, he kept interrupting, saying, "Time's up, time's up, time's up." He then asked the chair whether he had the right to comment to respond to Mr. Warfield's comments, and that shows an ignorance of the law. He said to him, "I think it's a shame that we, quote, have to sit here and listen to your bullshit," unquote. He then went on and said, quote, "I find it insulting to be lectured to by somebody like you." He then referred throughout the process to Mr. Warfield as Mr. Whoever you are. And he finished with this, quote, "I will go out of my way to try to make sure you're not part of this anymore." Now, how flagrant a violation of the Sunshine Ordinance and the Brown Act do they have to produce? To get up there and simply tell a member of the public who made legitimate public comment that they are going to use their position on a body to keep them from participating in the process. This is a pattern of behavior of the Arts Commission. When you identify stuff to them as being in violation of the law, they simply ignore you and do what they damn well please.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers under public comment? Seeing none, we'll find public comment closed. In the absence of a motion, we'll deem this item concluded. Okay. We're doing a great job. Let's move on to item 3. Madam Clerk.
Item number 3, file number 12004, hearing on the status of the April 4th, 2012 Order of Determination of Library Users Association against the Arts Commission for restricting appointments to 1 hour in the middle of the afternoon to listen to recordings of meetings referring to the Bernal Heights Branch Library mural.
Thank you. And we will follow the same procedure. I want to just remind folks that this is specific to this particular order of determination, which spoke to the availability of audio recording listening devices. I think that's a fair statement. So once again, Mr. Warfield, and if there's anything that refers to the previous complaint, you need not repeat that. We see the memo. We've got all that. Go ahead. Thank you.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. The same letter that, if you could tell me when I have a minute left, I'd appreciate it. The same letter that we sent for all 3 items applies here, except that on page 4, we specifically reference complaint number 12004. And just so you know, we're not asking for anything specific at this time. I'll read from the letter 3 short paragraphs. This is listed in the order of determination as our complaint regarding the Arts Commission unlawfully requiring appointments to review audio recordings of meetings at Arts Commission offices and unlawfully restricting total time to just 1 hour per week. These were meetings that took action on or were related to our effort to learn about Arts Commission actions related to the destruction of the Bernal mural. Following our successful complaint, the Arts Commission provided us with access that appeared to follow the law, that is, without appointment at their office during business hours and without unreasonable time restrictions. So, as I said, after a battle over this, we won that complaint at the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. In this instance, we were trying to understand what had gone on at a variety of meetings which had discussions or actions or were scheduled to have actions and so on and so forth. And many of these meetings ran well over 1 hour. We were restricted literally to 1 hour per week. They suggested 2 or 3 time slots when they would be available for us to listen. And of course, the law requires no appointment be required and that you have access to the materials. It actually started out, they didn't even have a machine that could jump forward so that if the meeting went more than an hour, it would never be possible to listen to the part after the first hour. When we noted this problem, they ultimately did provide a machine that was able to move forward. But this made it excruciating to try and piece together what had happened at relevant meetings over a number of meetings and drag that process out, which might have been done in an afternoon or 2 days, into weeks and weeks and weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we may have questions. Are there any other parties to present facts and evidence in support of the complainant? Seeing none, respondent, Ms. Paige Ritchie.
Thank you. We were recording these meetings on audio tape, the full commission meetings at the time, and have since gone to digital recordings. We have only one conference room, and it was our understanding that in order for someone to listen to the audio recording, that they should be in a space that would prevent the sound from traveling through the rest of the offices and distracting people from the other work that they were doing. So we were trying to provide an enclosed space, which was our single conference room, which is very heavily used. The reference to a machine that wouldn't fast forward, we have, after we began recording the meetings digitally, we had CDs of the meetings, and we had a small, inexpensive CD player, which I had not yet learned how to fast forward. I did some research on the instruction booklet and found out how to fast forward it, so I was able to provide that. We understand that this was a challenge to someone who wanted to listen to the meetings at their full length, and so the digital recordings were posted on the web, and we provided CD copies of those digital recordings. We transferred at least one of the audio tape recordings to CD, which is a process that takes probably a couple of hours, and provided that CD to Mr. Warfield for his listening at his convenience. We provided information about how the audio recordings could be listened to at the public library, at any of the listening stations. The CDs could be played on any ordinary CD player. They could also be played on a computer with a CD drive. So we did what we could to make the recordings available in a way that would be convenient for him to use on his own time. We have purchased headset and are now happy to let someone sit in the reception area of our office with the CD player perched on their knees and listen to the recordings during our open hours. So I believe that we were trying to provide for a reasonable experience, and understand that this was, that we needed to do this in another way, and so we have changed our policy. Anyone can come in and listen in our reception area with the headphones during any of our open office hours. And I think that pretty much, this is what I believe this was covered in the previous documentation. We have no new written information for that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have not taken that opportunity, but now that I'm aware, thank you. And we'll have some questions in a moment. Are there any other parties in support of the respondent city? Seeing none, the matter is with the task force for discussion and questions. Why don't I go in reverse order? Member Highland, any questions? Member Oka.
Yeah. One thing that bothers me is something that Mr. Hart said during public comment, the last public comment.
Mm-hmm.
And if members of any commission or board or any city-appointed body makes such comments that Mr. Hart's referenced, I think that's highly, highly unprofessional. And I think, I don't know what we can do about it, but in my view, that kind of behavior does not belong in any city body and should be stricken from any recorded meeting.
So if I might, I would agree in part and disagree in part. I would say that it's generally not appropriate, but I would not go so far as to say it should be stricken. I think if something is said, it should be recorded and a record made. But I think we should bear in mind that as part of the Sunshine Ordinance training that we have a role in creating, as along with the city attorney, that members of boards and commissions should be reminded of the prohibition against criticism, and that they need to respect the rights of the public, which they may agree or disagree with. And I'm bearing that in mind.
Let me restate that. I misspoke. I didn't mean that those comments should be stricken from the record. I think that the city should do something to prevent commissioners and board members from making such comments, because public comment is open to anybody who wishes to make any comments about anything on the agenda or that's relevant to what the commissioner body oversees or enforces.
I'm not disagreeing with that. Member, anything further? We're good? Okay. Member David.
Ms. Page.
Page Ritchie.
Ms. Ritchie, is it?
It's Ms. Page Ritchie, correct?
I apologize.
Ms. Ritchie, that's fine, either way.
Todd David, I get called Mr. Todd also. I
Right.
apologize, Ms. Ritchie. I have some kind of, 30,000-foot concerns about, it seems that, that there was a culture of kind of opaqueness at the commission, and it sounds like that you guys have done a good job of becoming more transparent in your, with the minutes and the recordings. I was wondering, can you speak at all to kind of, as someone who's been there, has there been this shift of recognizing that the minutes and are public information and the public has a right for access to it?
Yeah, I believe I would not describe it as a culture of opacity. I would say that we have had, I think that we have had in the past had a concern about making sure that when we speak we are coherent and intelligent. And I think that we've had a lot of training and discussion about the importance of releasing all of those documents, and we've had a lot of training about what constitutes a public document, and so we are, I think, much more aware of that. I think that, I would say that people have kind of been focused on meeting the deadlines and sort of the not at the 30,000-foot level, as you say, but just kind of trying to keep things moving along. I think people had not necessarily had the awareness of what the sunshine requirements meant for our day-to-day operations within the office. I think people had a sense about that for meetings, but not necessarily as much in the office procedures. And I think that we have a much heightened awareness of that. And we have had a lot of training. And if I might address Member Oka's comment, I agree that it was not an appropriate comment by Commissioner Smith. He has had conversations with the President J.D. Beltran, the President of the Arts Commission, and with our Director of Cultural Affairs, Tom DeCaney, about this comment and about just generally the nature of public comment at meetings. So I believe that he is very much aware of, what is appropriate behavior, and he has apologized. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. So, Ms. Paige Ritchie, you're giving people lots of opportunities for exercise back and
Yes.
forth here today. So, at the time that this particular complaint was lodged, or the events that gave rise to it,
Yes.
was that when you were in the old office space before you moved to the larger space at 25 Van Ness?
No, we were, I don't know, we were in the new space where we are now. We have one conference room there, which is up on the 4th floor. And so that was the space that we were using
for that purpose.
this
Okay.
purpose.
Okay, I just was wondering whether the move to the new office space facilitated better public access and gave you more opportunities, because I remember that your old space was a little more cramped.
Our old space was a little more cramped. Depending on how far back you go, we did at one point have control over the large conference room in Suite 70 in the basement, as well as a small conference room in our Suite 200 offices, or Suite 240 offices. In our new space in Suite 345 and 450, we have only the one conference room. Building management has taken over the use of the Suite 70 conference room, so we don't have the discretion to use that room any longer. So we have only the one conference room.
But you made reference to the reception area as being an
we
area
have-
where that... Okay.
Yeah.
I have not been in the new space, so I'll have to come
You
visit
should
sometime.
come and visit us.
There you go.
It's a little space. The street artist office is there. There's a reception desk, and there are, I think, 3 or 4 chairs. So that's where we would have somebody sit who wanted to listen to audio.
Got it. Just wanted to understand that.
Yeah.
When you referenced earlier the audio recording of committee meetings,
Yes.
I assume that you're also now digitally recording full commission meetings?
Yes, we've been digitally recording full commission meetings. I can't tell you off the top of my head when we began.
For a few years.
For a couple of years, yeah.
So all of those recordings at this time are now available on the website?
Yes,
So
they
if
are.
one wants to go to the Visual Arts Committee or the Street Arts,
Yes.
any of the committees or the full commission for the last couple of years, those are all available on the website?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And then with respect to old tapes, you still have physical cassette tapes, I presume?
We do still have some physical cassette tapes, yes.
Okay. And since the Sunshine Ordinance requires them to be kept forever, those must be taking up space somewhere.
They are.
Is there thought given to digitizing those at some cost, and is that something that has been discussed or thought about?
We have thought about it. We understand that tape doesn't last forever and that digital is much more accessible. We do not have that in our budget at the moment.
I mean, understand that's a big project citywide, and so it may become a citywide priority or project with resources. It may not, but it's just a consideration, because I can't imagine someone going back 15 years or 40 years to try to listen to a tape of something, and at some point So anyway, I'm just thinking ahead about that aspect of tapes.
Yeah, I would be happy for COIT or somebody to come up with a plan to take care of that for us.
Thinking about it. Okay, and just finally, in the future, if we have you back for whatever reason, it would be good to memorialize in writing any changes to practices, so where you've said that we now have digital recordings and they're put on the website, to just have a paragraph or two saying that in the record, so we can have that in the file, as well as having this exchange. I think would help all parties just going forward.
Okay. Somehow I thought we had addressed that, but perhaps not.
Well, just in terms of this type of hearing being a compliance hearing.
Yes.
So
All right.
anyway, not a huge problem. Again, I'm satisfied that there have been changes and that there are no particular issues with regard to this complaint and making devices available during business hours. So I'm inclined to, again, take no action and consider the matter concluded, but we should wait for public comment on that. Unless we had further questions, did you have any further clarification or rebuttal, Ms. Page-Ritchie? Okay, Mr. Warfield, did you have any further clarification or rebuttal?
If you could let me know when I have 30 seconds, I'd appreciate it. Once again, it's a little bit distressing to have questions directed to one side only and give them an opportunity to have at length an answer for this or that and zero for us, apart from the formal portion of the presentations and rebuttals. The issue here is that the Sunshine Ordinance is very clear that records must be provided for inspection at the office in question. I don't really want to go into or justify what the situation was for us with respect to access to the various devices that were needed to play the materials that we eventually got copies of after payment. There's issues of payment obstacles. There's issues of technological obstacles. I happen to have an older CD player that goes by tracks, or you play it and it goes from the beginning to the end. That was not helpful for the CDs that were provided to us for the 2011, I believe, meetings. Basically, we were asking for what had happened previously in 2009 and wanted several meetings that fall, and we wanted also to have the most recent meetings mostly in 2011, as I recall. So there were two strings of meetings we wanted. The CDs were a particular problem, as I said, because the Arts Commission does not index those the way that, for example, the supervisors do. The requirement, I think, to examine at the premises of the department is very important. That means I can walk in, I can bring somebody, and we can look at, listen to, and so on, without regard to who brought what along. Today, are we sitting in a cafe and nobody brought a proper player? One part of the record we've requested is tapes, the other one is CDs, etc. With respect to this precious timing of the conference room, I think if you wanted to really find out if that was true, you might ask for the record of the appointments for the conference room, and you might ask whether the Arts Commission has ever heard of headphones. Apparently they hadn't heard of headphones. I can also say that prior to the time that I was requesting listening time, and they manufactured this scarcity of availability of a conference room that was supposed to be required, I had spent literally hour upon hour. I had 2 and 3 hour and more sessions in that same conference room multiple times a week, thanks to the accommodation of a different member of the Arts Commission who didn't seem to have that much trouble scheduling many hours. I'd have 2-3 hours, even 4 hours in one afternoon, and then I'd come the next morning, the next afternoon, whatever. I think that conference room scarcity is just an excuse for obstacle making, and I think that it's a pattern that the Arts Commission did have with respect to our attempt to find out what was going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on the matter?
Members of the Education Outreach and Training Committee, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. And I'm doing this to make it a matter of public record because I'm a little disturbed. Thomas Aquinas teaches that willful ignorance of what one ought to know is a mortal sin. I think a more colloquial expression was ignorance of the law is no excuse. And for bodies like the Arts Commission to send representatives who simply say, we didn't know we had these requirements, is unacceptable. They have a legal obligation to do things legally. and lawfully. And saying, I didn't know we were required to do this, that, or the other thing is not an excuse that justifies the behavior. I have sat in meetings of the Arts Commission and the various subcommittees, and they are very hostile to people who come to them and say, you know, you're violating the ordinance. Look at these three cases we have on the agenda today. They're all the Arts, two of them the Arts Commission. They're over a year old, and Mr. Warfield had to drag them for 2 years to get to this point where they actually did it. Anybody who was acting in good faith, if you came to them and said, here's the law, would you please read this, and they read it, would understand that they have an obligation to do certain things and wouldn't be here trying to excuse bad behavior. But that's what they do. And if you tolerate it, you're simply giving them permission to continue to do so, doing this. I didn't know we were required to do this. They have 14 commissioners. They all took an oath that they sign every year to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and that of the state of California. That means following all the ancillary laws that flow therefrom, the state laws, the local laws such as the Sunshine Ordinance, and to come in and say, we didn't know we had to do this stuff is an insult to anyone with a modicum of intelligence. And it shouldn't be accepted, especially after 14 years of this law being in place. And again, none of these issues, whether it's these two cases or any of the ones Mr. Warfield has brought before the task force, have ever been discussed in the commission meetings of the Arts Commission. They simply ignore the fact, and they send someone like Ms. Paige Ritchie, who then has to try to justify what all those sworn commissioners didn't do what they were supposed to do and why. And that is not fair to her. I have nothing against Ms. Paige Ritchie or any of the employees. I think it is the problem with the Arts Commission that they would actually send people to try to defend on their behalf their own ignorance and ignoring of the law. Unacceptable. Now, Ms. Paige Ritchie needs to know that I am, during this next year, going to look at every single thing they do, and I will file multiple sunshine complaints. And if they want to accuse me of abusing the law, no, it's not abusing the process. It's doing exactly what the process is intended to do, and they should be doing it they should be doing it voluntarily, not having to be forced to do it.
Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, again, I don't feel that there's a need to take action, and we'll conclude the matter unless there's objection. Seeing no objection, matter is concluded. Thank you. And Ms. Paige Ritchie, if you could just wait a moment. There was an item related to item 4, so let's call that and deal with that.
Item number 4, file number 12007, hearing on the status of the April 4th, 2012 order of determination of the Library Users Association against Supervisor Campos for responding late to an immediate disclosure request and redacting information from the Bernal Heights Branch Library mural related documents inappropriately.
Okay, so there's several things happening with this. First, in the referral from the task force to this committee, it referred to the Arts Commission. I don't have that set of minutes in front of me. That was, I'm thinking November or December of 2012. But in any event, I think that was in error. The complaint was against Supervisor Campos, and I don't believe that the Arts Commission was a party to it at all. So, Ms. Paige Ritchie, do you have any familiarity with this particular issue?
No, I don't, and it's my understanding that it has to do with the supervisor.
Okay. So I just wanted to make that clear, and then we're okay. Thank you. So I think that this really is not about the Arts Commission, and thanks. With respect to Supervisor Campos, is there a representative from Supervisor Campos's office? There is not. We received a communication last week asking for a continuance because no one from their office was going to be available for the meeting. So I am inclined to continue this item, seek a motion or act to continue this to the call of the chair, but I wanted to give an opportunity for the complainant to speak and for public comment. If Supervisor Campos or a representative isn't present, I think we need to hear from them, so I think that's pretty important. So,
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Did you say we have heard from Supervisor Campos' office that they want a continuance?
Yes. Apparently by email last Wednesday. I would have preferred that they be here, but they apparently were not available. So I can't produce people who aren't here.
Okay.
In any event, Mr. Warfield, if you could address us as to the question of a continuance.
I'm not sure, are you asking me a specific question?
I'm not sure if I am. Would you prefer that? Do you have any objection to us continuing this so that we can hear from Supervisor Campos? I believe that the order asked them to have procedures in place so that requests for records weren't unduly delayed, and I think it makes sense to hear from them on that. Do you have any objection to a continuance?
First of all, I'd like to say that in respect to whether the Arts Commission has a role in this, it seems to me it would have been appropriate had you asked the complainant. You only asked the Arts Commission, she's gone. Suppose I had something to say about it. Suppose I do have something to say about it. Don't you suppose that the complainant might have a thought about what his complaint is about and against whom? Why wasn't I asked?
If you'd like to comment, now's a great
With
time.
respect to your motion for a continuance, it is alarming and disturbing, especially in light of the chair's comments that everybody ought to get everything. We did not hear anything about Supervisor Campos's wish for a continuance because nobody could come. And I think that's highly inappropriate. Maybe we canceled a vacation so that we could come here and do our civic duty and be here to take up this matter. I think it's highly disrespectful of a person who has filed a complaint and anybody who's involved not to give them the same consideration that you have had, which is to hear that there is a request for a continuance. I think that's highly inappropriate on the part of certainly the administration, and if you had a hand in that, I'd certainly be interested. With respect to a continuance, who knows? Maybe there'll be an earthquake, maybe somebody won't be able to make it again. In principle, I think it's a good idea to have the parties present. And so, with respect to the specifics, if Supervisor Campos said that he would have available somebody to come, and I think it really should be him, then I would be fine with a continuance.
Great, thank you. Why don't I take public comment and then we'll deal with this. Is there public comment? The issue is whether or not to continue this to the call of the chair.
Members of the OT, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. I think it's just a matter of civility in the fact that, as was mentioned previously, making statements that everybody ought to get everything. Mr. Warfield ought to have gotten a notice the day that the task force received it, saying that they're asking for a continuance because no one would be able to attend. That would have given him a heads up, and if he had not needed to spend time preparing for that third item on the agenda, he might have given him them additional time for the first two items. It's just a matter of common sense. So I think just as a matter of civility, putting it, giving all parties a notice is the right thing to do. The second thing is I'm not quite clear on the chair's comment about, this was them developing procedures. This complaint was referred a year ago. They've had a year to do that. And intimating in any way that, it's best to continue this because they may need some more time to come up with some procedures or something like that, has nothing to do with nothing. They've had a year. And bottom line is they should have been doing it right before this happened. So, throwing in that comment that, that this has to do with coming up with procedures and somehow then it makes sense to have a continuance, I think is a specious comment at best. Very frankly, I really have said this to the task force and committees numerous times. They're only going to take you as seriously as you take yourself. And if you come up with excuses for them not to do what you want them to do or need them to do, they are going to take advantage of that, and they are going to use that as your imprimatur, saying that that's okay with you. Bottom line is they should have had somebody here. I have a hard time believing that they now have 3 legislative aides in each of the supervisors' offices, and the fact that nobody could come here to deal with this is, I think, probably a load of crap.
Okay. I just wanted to note a couple of things, that this matter was heard before the Compliance and Amendments Committee last year, was referred back to the full task force. The task force considered whether to refer this to the Ethics Commission and decided not to, and instead sent it here for a second compliance hearing. So this has been around a bit, and the communication from the supervisor's office asked that the item be continued to a later date when they can present their policies, which did not suggest to me that they need more time to develop, just that they need someone physically here to talk to us. So I would suggest that we continue the item to the call of the chair. I don't think I need a motion on that, if we can do that without objection.
I would actually like to ask a couple of questions.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
Absolutely.
So first, I would like to, the email from Ms. Ashley that Supervisor Compass's legislative aide who asked for the continuance. Sorry, the question's actually for our clerk.
We'll take a stretch break for a second.
Hi. So, Ms. Osbury, I was just curious. So what is the procedure when you receive an email like this from, a supervisor or from someone asking for a continuance? Who do you then send that? Right, obviously it got sent to us, but it's sounding like that perhaps Mr. Warfield did not receive the notice of the request for a continuance. So I'm just curious, what are our procedures for that?
Okay. First, I just want, through the chair, Ms. Chair Pivot, that you did not close public comment. So make sure you...
I'm happy to close public comment.
Okay.
I'm sorry, then hold on a second. Was there further public comment on this question of continuing item 4? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. And then we'll come back to discussion, and there'll be an opportunity for general public comment shortly.
My comment is that it strikes me as an observer of this very interesting proceeding that is like in the, what's that expression, in the trenches, establishing democratic procedures and open government. My comment is that it seems odd to me that the supervisor was not able to provide to you upon your request a timely response for appearing here. And it seems to me that the response to them should be that that is, I don't know how to put it, but disappointing, and that this body deserves the respect of attendance when requested.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Got it right that time. Let's go back to Member David, and I've got Member Oka next.
Do you need me to repeat?
No, you don't. So normally the procedure is to, when we receive a notice for either, of course, the complainant or the respondent, to send it to both parties and also to CC the chair.
Okay. So, am I allowed to ask questions of Mr. Warfield?
Yeah.
So Mr. Warfield, could you, I'm curious, are you saying that you did not receive notice of the supervisor's request for a continuance?
Yes.
Yes, you did not receive it.
I did not receive, as I said the first time, thank you for asking. Now, it's conceivable that something was sent or something was sent somewhere. You might ask your administrator if she sent us or where she sent such a notification. I'm not saying somebody on your side did anything wrong. I don't recall getting anything with regard to the request for a continuance, and we have a separate folder for city communications so that it should go in a noticeable way into a special place so that it stands out from the run-of-the-mill stuff that comes in via email. So I would certainly like to ask if something was sent to us. I'd like to know that, if it went astray or who it was, how it was sent, and so on.
So, Ms. Osberry, would it be possible for you to resend him the original one so that, who knows what happened, right?
Well, the question is, was it sent to Library Users Association? That's the issue. Was it sent?
Yeah, I believe it was sent, but I can always double check.
That would be great. Thank you. And then my next question or discussion item for us as a group is I personally am curious. Supervisor Campos does now, as every other supervisor, has 3 legislative aides. I know he's had a lot of turnover in his office, but I am kind of curious, schedule-wise, what has caused for not, the ability, is it that there are new aides in the office and they're not familiar, or is it literally that it was just so booked today that he couldn't be there? And is that an appropriate question for us to ask the supervisor to kind of provide a copy of the schedule for the day as to why that didn't happen?
To respond briefly, I think we could spend gobs of time trying to figure it out, but the fact is they're not here, they weren't able to be here, and I'd rather spend that time on other things. I would rather that they had been here and all of that. I will come back to this question of the communications and the email and all that. So if we can hold that for 1 second, I want to give Member Oka a chance.
As I recall, Mr. Chair, the request did not have a time specific for the continuance. I think we better find out. And I would like a time specific instead of being told the call of the chair. I would like to know when we will get this on our plate so that we can all prepare for it.
Understood.
Just to be fair to everybody involved.
Absolutely. I mean, by saying call of the chair, my intention is to have it at our next meeting, and we're going to talk shortly about our next meeting.
All right.
But I also want it to happen at a time where they can be present, where the complainant, where we can have the substantive discussion. I feel like we're having that discussion now, except that they're not here to be part of it. So,
Okay.
So if I can come back to this issue of communications, my sense, and we haven't had this committee meet in this particular configuration before, and it is somewhat unusual for us to be dealing with referrals, but there are several that are before us from the task force. I am interested in these referral hearings having the order of determination and any communications since then, both communications from the task force to the complainant and respondent, notifying them of the hearing, any procedural comments, requests for continuances, objections, any other new material that they want to submit, and any information on how they've complied or how they haven't complied, all of that. So that's before us. I'm really not that interested in the material prior to the order of determination because I don't, that's arguing the merits of the complaint, and I don't think that's the subject of the hearing. If there's general consensus to that end, then I will ask going forward that we include in the packet that kind of material if it's provided by the cutoff for the packet, and if not, that it be distributed to the members of the committee and certainly to the other party if it was submitted by one party and not to the other. So further to my earlier comment that everyone should have everything, that people can see in advance all the material there is and they can understand the context and prepare however they need to prepare. So that's my kind of extended response, and I hope that addresses the concern. And I don't know what happened to date, and that's just where I am.
Well, I just want to be clear. I think that my concern is different than yours. I agree with you 100% that we are not here to relitigate. We are here to deal with the cases, that have already been decided. Once again, my concern is that we as a committee are communicating appropriately. That's, I'm not doing this in order that's my chief concern. And my second concern is that, any member of the public or if a supervisor showed up and the member of the public did, it's being considerate of people's time and energy and efforts and stuff like that. And I think that is, a legitimate, concern that we should have. I feel like a letter asking for a continuance without there really being substance to that letter, besides that I need a continuance, I feel like it just lacks a little bit of explanation. The letter reads, "Thank you for taking the time to speak with me this afternoon. Our office would like to request a continuance for complaint number 12007, which is scheduled to be heard at the EUTC for Monday, April 29th. Unfortunately, none of the staff in our office who would be able to speak to this issue are available during the time of that meeting. Therefore, we are requesting the item be continued to a later date when we can present our policies." Okay, once again, to me, that doesn't give me a lot of light as to what it is. That's just my opinion. I feel like that, that with 3 ledge aides and a supervisor, that it's not unreasonable to be able to expect someone to show up and represent the office. That's just I'm not saying we need to refer this to ethics. That's my opinion.
Okay. I think we've all sort of done a thing on this. I would again suggest that we continue this to the call of the chair with the understanding that it will be as soon as possible, hopefully the next meeting. And if we can do that without objection. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Excuse me. I need a first and a second without objection, or is this a second?
I don't think we're going to do this by motion. We're just going to do this by agreement. Okay, so now let's move on to item 5. Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry, one other thing, I'm just for
Sure,
a point
no
of
problem.
order. That's fine without objection, but I still need a first and a second.
So, all right, so you want to do this as a formal motion?
Fine.
Okay. So
Let's do it.
we'll do that as a motion, moved by member David, seconded by member Oka?
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank
We've already taken
you.
public comment.
Right, you're good.
Okay.
And close
All
it
right.
out. Okay, so item number 5, public comment.
Okay, so we'll take 3 minutes per speaker. This is an opportunity to address the committee on items that are within our jurisdiction and not on today's agenda.
And if the administrator could let me know when I have 1 minute left, please. Again, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. This is printed from your website. This was your meeting schedule for this EOTC last year. As you see, you had 4 meetings in an entire year. Yes, I know there was the whole problem with the improper constitution of the task force itself, but I think we have a continuing problem because the very last meeting on December the 13th, I reviewed the minute meetings, and the discussion basically was, what are we going to do to get us, get caught up on the backlog and, do whatever we need to move things forward. And here's this year. Canceled, 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 canceled. How is that moving things forward? And what came of the December 13 meeting? Was there anything produced? Did you actually come up with any suggestions as to how to do this? Look at the 3 things that are on this agenda right now for Mr. Warfield. They're all a year old. And you can use all they went back and forth, but the bottom line was you don't meet. And if you don't meet, you're not doing your job. And if you're not meeting, you're not even meeting your own bylaws, which requires you to hold meetings. And if you don't hold meetings, the mayor's policy is that you resign if you can't make the meetings. That is Mayor Newsom's policy, and Mayor Lee has continued it. He said, if you're going to be on a board or commission, you're expected to come to the meetings and hold the meetings. This simply puts the public at some sort of a arbitrary thing where you're going to come in whenever you want to, and they're just supposed to hang around out there and expect to what? Come here, we'll give you notice 3 days ahead. And even though it's been a year, we're just going to expect you to show up. If you can't hold the meetings, there's a real problem. Now, do I expect any of you to address this? No. I think you're going to do what a lot of boards and commissions is when somebody points out that they're not doing their job, they just sit there and they're silent, hoping that nobody will say anything. I have a complaint that was referred to this body. It is dated December the 5th. It was issued on January the 2nd, and here we are 4 months later, and I don't even have an idea as to when this is going to be heard. So given your current year's calendar, what should I expect? This is going to be August, September, maybe next year? And I'm not saying that to be sarcastic. I'm saying that honestly, I would like an answer. What is your idea about what it is to handle these things in an appropriate way? Is it just whenever you get around to it? And why are you not having meetings? Why have the first 4 meetings of this year all been canceled? Nothing appears on the website except the meeting is canceled. If you can't get a quorum, then perhaps you're going to need to go back to the task force and ask for them to appoint other people who can come to the meetings. I'm getting a little tired of it, and I'm just sitting here and I'm watching people's rights being abused. Was that 1 minute? Yeah. There is a thing called due process, and I think you all know the idea that justice delayed is justice denied. The simple fact that somebody has to wait for a damn year to have a complaint heard when the law says 45 days, and then they have to wait for another 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months to get the order of determination, and then they have to wait for 3 or 4 or 5, 6 months more to get a hearing at one of the committees, is totally unacceptable. And bottom line is, if you won't take responsibility for it, Mr. Chairman, then you're not capable of being chairman. If you can't run your committee any better than this, you should remove yourself and say, I can't do the job. Because obviously, looking at your posted schedule on your website for this year, you aren't. You have failed to have a meeting at any time for 4 solid months.
Is there any further public comment?
Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. I'd appreciate a 30-second warning if I might have it. Justice delayed, indeed, is justice denied. In 2012, the Education Outreach and Training Committee held meetings January, February, March, and April were canceled. May was held. June canceled, July canceled, August canceled, September canceled, October canceled, November canceled, December canceled, and December special. So there was one meeting in December. You guys, unfortunately, I think, are using one of these to look at issues. A tube. And to exclude the surroundings and the context is a big mistake if, in fact, you want to be effective and to understand what's going on. Supervisor Campos, it's been an issue, late response. It was also an issue after the order of determination, where he took not 5 days, but 23 business days to turn over something. And now he's running for a new job. He's running to replace Tom Omiano in the Assembly. Gosh, that election is November. Maybe he doesn't want to face the Sunshine Task Force now. Somebody said something about procedures that he wanted to complete. That's not a reason for not coming here. Let him come here and say, we've got a draft version of the procedures. Let him show it. Let him describe it. That's fine. But that doesn't promptly resolve a case that has dragged on for a long time. And that dragging on has helped to destroy the Bernal mural, the community-created Victor Hara mural, which on October the 4th, 2 sides out of 3 were painted out. The 3rd side is scheduled for destruction whenever they get a new design. I want to thank Member Oka for commenting about the inappropriateness of the Arts Commission comments. They made excuses about talking amongst themselves. There has been no public apology or explanation or comment at the Arts Commission,
30
and
seconds.
certainly nothing to us who were the specific recipient of those vicious and even threatening comments. I want to thank Mr. David for insisting on better explanations for why supervisor can't bring somebody promptly. And finally, I want to say that I think you could do well if you would provide a basic public Bill of Rights so that everybody would have a simple version on 1 or 2 pages what everybody is entitled to with respect to open government, and encourage folks to post it in every department that deals with the public so that everybody is playing by a simple and clear same rule book. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Member Oka?
It is not my intention to embarrass any member of this committee or the task force or any employee of the city government. But I have been on record as insisting that we meet as a committee, and I have repeated that numerous times publicly. And I find it appalling that we have not met until today. It's inexcusable. And like I said, it's not my intent to embarrass anybody, but I want us to be functional. And we have not been functional for 4 months. Why? There's no excuse for it. Go ahead.
I was going to address some of this under item 7. I am in agreement with some of the comments and in disagreement with others. It has been at least as frustrating for me as for everyone. There have been a number of obstacles that I don't want to particularly get into right now, but I have very much wanted this committee to meet, to set a regular meeting schedule and to meet, and there have just been obstacles that have prevented that. So I'm hoping going forward that those obstacles are pretty much behind us and that we will be able to get through the backlog of items that have been referred to us and be able to do the proactive work that I think we all would like to do. So, you know, I think it's best not to go through those individual items, but I'll just leave my statement as is. Let's move on to item 6.
Item number 6, approval of minutes from the May 10th, 2012 regular meeting.
So I need to make some corrections to the minutes to clarify a couple things, and I have not had an opportunity to do that yet. I have also found that there were some meetings in 2011 of this committee for which draft minutes were never approved. So I want to take some time to clarify the minutes, and so I would like to continue this matter and address it as the first item at our next meeting. Is there public comment on that?
Again, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. I listen to what you're saying. These are year-old minutes. None of you was even here when this meeting was held. And you're saying that although you agendized this, you're not ready to approve them even a year later. I mean, at what point do you go from the sublime to the ridiculous? This body is here to ensure that government agencies, commissions, and so forth follow the Sunshine Ordinance, but you can't do it. Can't or won't. And, you know, using specious comments like, I don't want to go into why we didn't hold meetings this year, I think is just a cop-out. You know what the reasons are. If it is lack of attendance or whatever it happens to be, those things should be made public, not kept private. And if you're still trying to approve a set of minutes from May of 2012, and you come here with it on the agenda and you're still not ready, what is the reason for that? Why was it put on the agenda if it's not ready to be approved? And how are you going to manage to approve these minutes when none of you was here for the meeting that occurred? You can't tell what was said or what was done. I guess you can go back and listen to the tape, but then it's your interpretation of what was said and done. You have an obligation to set the example for every board and commission in this city. And if you're going to expect them to have minutes posted within a reasonable length of time, you have to do so. If you're going to expect them to have those, and by the way, where are the December 13 minutes? They're on the website, but they're still draft. Why aren't they on here to be approved? It just seems like when nobody says anything to you, you're going to just do it whenever you get around to it. And you see no problem at all. Continue it. I went to a task force meeting not too long ago where there were 14 sets of minutes on the agenda. Minute after minute after minute after minute after minute after minute. And what does that say to other government agencies and other commissions? They don't think it's serious. They don't think it's important. Why in the hell should we? As Andrew Carnegie said, I stopped a long time ago listening to what people say. I simply watch what they do.
Further public comment? And by the way, the record should reflect that I was present at the May meeting as a member of the public. Go ahead.
Peter Warfield, Library Users Association. If you could let me know when 30 seconds are left. Appreciate it. I'm very troubled by the back-to-back secrecy that we're hearing here. What were the obstacles that the chair found prevented previous meetings? I think the members of the committee and certainly the public have a right to know. Now, I've had some difficulties, I think, with a variety of aspects of the operation here, but the public should know. As the previous speaker said, is it a matter of attendance? The members weren't going to be available month after month? That should be known. How about the administration? I have some serious problems with the administration, which is the responsibility of the clerk of the board, who has violated Sunshine by formal decision of the Sunshine Task Force in times past. And I believe is continuing to do so in a variety of ways, which I'd rather not get into. But I think the public is owed, and you owe it, to be open with respect to something as crucial and as critical as the very fact of your having missed so many meetings. In fact, the majority of your meetings been canceled, looking at the schedule for 2012 and 2013. I also think the public deserves an explanation of what's wrong with these minutes. Why are they on the agenda? What does the non-approval of 2011 minutes have to do with non-approval of these minutes? And if there are 2011 minutes, why hasn't the administration called that to the attention of the chair so that it would be put on the agenda? I think there are some very serious questions, and I think that the committee should be operating in an open fashion. People can make mistakes. It's just human. But it's compounding the mistakes when you try and cover them up or hide them or sweep them under the rug. That's a second mistake that in some cases can be even worse than the first one. And we're certainly not going to get to the bottom of what's wrong and what's going on unless we do have some openness about it. So I'd certainly appreciate and think it would be appropriate to discuss both why we don't want to have the minutes according to the chair approved now, as well as why haven't we had meetings. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Do we want to act by motion, or can we just continue the matter without objection? Do the members want any explanation from me about any of this, or can we just move on? Okay. So why don't we continue the minutes without objection?
In a second.
I'll second.
It's Member Highland moving and Member David seconding.
I'll move.
Okay. Moved by Member Highland, seconded by Member David to continue this matter without objection. And again, my intention is to have this before us, at least this set, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of the 2011 minutes and hope to review the December 2012 minutes in preparation for us going forward on the proactive work plan. So that's where we are on item 6. Item 7.
Item number 7, announcements, comments, questions, future agenda items.
Okay, so this is where I had a place for us to talk about where we're at going forward. We have still, I believe, 4 orders of determination that are before us. I'm sorry I don't have those numbers right in front of me. One of them is the Supervisor Campos matter that we just discussed. One of them is the Ray Hart's versus the Police Department, and there were two others. I believe one was an Arts Commission matter, and I'm sorry I can't remember the other one right now. I would hope to get all or most of those before us at our next meeting. I really want to clear out these past orders that are old and need to be dealt with. And then I really would like us to move on to the proactive agenda. I wanted to see if members know their availability in the next few weeks, or if we need to poll them later. Part of the problem was not being able to find a time that worked for people. I was looking at the possibility of May 15th, a Wednesday, 2 weeks after our regular meeting, perhaps at 3 o'clock if we can get a room. So if people can see if that time works, I can look for other opportunities, and then if we can figure out what slot actually works going forward, then we can set that as a new regular meeting, whether it's that or some other time, so that we have an opportunity to have a regular monthly meeting.
How about 2 weeks from today, May 13th, since we're all here on a Monday? Would that work again? 15th would not work for me.
Okay.
Not until 6 p.m.
Got it. I don't know, but I will look into May 13th at 3 o'clock. We're trying now to hold this committee at 3 so that we're not incurring overtime and can have city staff here. And we were trying to find a better balance there between 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 4, 4:30, 5. And I think we're going to try 3 o'clock for the moment on a day that works for the 4 members that we have now.
Is the rooms an issue, as always?
The rooms can be an issue as well. And so that's why I was suggesting earlier, there are a lot of moving parts. This is not nearly as easy as it
Okay, and
is.
just for the record, any day except Wednesday at 3 works for me.
Got it.
That helps.
So then why don't we try to do some day other than that Wednesday? Okay. Member Oka, you'll be available. Member David? Okay.
Yes.
So let's see if we can find May 13th at 3.
18th?
13th?
13th.
Monday, 2 weeks.
Monday, the 13th.
I was saying, any Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday are all good for me, but you guys decide.
Okay. And the only Wednesday is for the full task force. You've got that blocked. Okay. And then if that day works going forward, then we'll put that on the agenda to change our regular meeting day so that we have some certainty. And just in terms of expectations, I'm hoping that we're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes and that going forward we'll meet for not more than 2 hours in the future. Okay. That's what I had in item 7, unless there's further discussion about calendar, workload, et cetera. We're good? Okay. Is there a public comment?
Again, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. I don't come here to be a scold, and I think it's kind of a sad commentary that I have to. I go before various boards and commissions, and I know that they have taken an oath to, follow the law. You go to them and you say to them, you're violating the law. And instead of saying, oh, thank you for letting us know and we'll correct that, they force you to go through a year or 2 year or 3 year process to try to force them to do something which the law clearly says they're supposed to do. Very frankly, I don't see why there's such big embarrassment. If you can't make a meeting, then you simply say, I can't make the meetings. If the website says that this committee meets on the second Tuesday of each month. If that's not the case, then it shouldn't say that on the website. And if people wanted to be on this committee and were assigned to this committee, then one of the things they have to accept is the fact that they obligated themselves when they accepted the position to be available at the time of the meetings, and saying to the public, we're just going to have this arbitrary decision every month that we're going to hold it maybe on a Monday, maybe on a Tuesday, maybe on a Wednesday, maybe it'll be Saturday, who knows? Maybe it'll be 3 o'clock, maybe it'll be 4 o'clock, maybe 5 o'clock, and everybody is inconvenienced except you. Honestly, I was elected to 2 terms on the neighborhood board in the city and county of Honolulu. And when I accepted it, I knew what all the requirements were, I knew what all the obligations were, and because I knew I would make the time, I ran for those and attended the meetings. The bottom line is we're all adults. If you know you can't attend a meeting and you know that it's going to happen frequently, then be honest and simply say, this is probably not the place for me. It is not any sort of an insult. It is not any sort of a bad thing. It is simply the fact that your schedule doesn't work for the obligation. But what I'm hearing is this belief that we can just willy-nilly move these things around and expect the public to just live with it. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're saying, oh, well, I can't make it Wednesday, well, I can't make it Monday. Well, you know, the public knows that the meeting is posted on your website as the second Tuesday of each month. And it should be held that day until such time as you change the date and officially move it, not just move it around willy-nilly and say, well, sooner or later we'll get to a point where we get some sort of an agreement on when we're going to meet. And as far as the comments, I wanted to make these comments to you because I intend to bring them up to the next full task force meeting, because that's something I've raised before. If you're going to be on these commissions, you made a commitment, and that commitment is just as serious as any other commitment in your life.
I'd like to answer that last comment by Mr. Hartz. This is my first meeting. I was just drafted this education outreach last week. I was not aware it was Tuesdays, and we appreciate you guys, Mr. Warfield and yourself, keeping us on track. I think, however, it's clear here that we're all new on this commission, and we're trying to work out a day that will work. Once that date's been determined, we'll definitely get that on the website, and we'll stick to that. So I think a little consideration, a little leeway here is appreciated. Thank you.
And the last time the regular meeting date and time was set, it was set at the second Thursday at, I'm not even sure now, 4 o'clock or 5:30. But in any event, that didn't work for members. That's why we're here doing this. Further public comment?
Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. I have in my hand your bylaws. Article 4, Meetings, Section 1. Sorry, it talks about the task force. It does mention that the task force, this I got from the clerk within the week. Regular meetings of the task force shall be held on the fourth Tuesday of the month at 4 p.m. at City Hall. Gives an address. That doesn't refer to these meetings, but it certainly refers to your bylaws needing an update. And certainly I agree with the previous speaker. It is very helter-skelter and I think unprofessional to not have a set date and time for regular meetings. That's what's normally expected with bodies. And that's why there are a whole range of reasons why special meetings that are outside the usual schedule require special notifications and special lead times, because the public expects on certain time of the month this is going to be a meeting. It is very dismaying to hear that the reason we're starting, presumably from now on at 3, is something about overtime. Hello, what about the public? You have heard repeatedly from members of the public, and even in your own committee, that for members of the public a later start time is preferable because people work, people go to school. In some cities, there are city hall meetings that start at 7. I've been to them. If you want to consider the public's convenience and opportunity to participate, then you'll start the meetings later and not even earlier than the already inconvenient 4 o'clock that has been the practice. With respect to something I touched on previously, I think that you urgently need to prepare for the public your basic rights under sunshine so that they don't have to read through 23 pages or something like that of single-space typing, a lot of it not really related to most cases, and so that it can be posted and clear for both the members of the public and departments who deal with the public so that everybody is playing from the same rule book and will know what can be expected. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Let me just check, Madam Clerk Administrator, if we are able to do Monday the 13th, do we still have time to make that work? You'd need an agenda by this Friday? I'm just thinking about that. Sorry.
Correct. Looking at the schedule,
Or are we too late for that?
no, the agenda would have to be finalized if you're looking at the 13th by at least May the 8th.
Right, but to notify parties if we're,
5 days prior, so at least by May 6th.
Chair Pimple, I think it might be better to lock down a date that works
Yeah.
for the four of us,
All
get
right.
it on the books, get it.
I understand, I just don't want us to delay another month. I'm very
Right.
you know.
Right.
All right, so let's see if we can do the 13th and see if we can get Supervisor Campos, maybe the Police Department. Supervisor Campos may only have 3 aides. The Police Department seems to have a few other people around. We'll see what we can do. We're about to conclude. I just want to say this is not easy stuff. I am absolutely doing my level best to try to get through this. I recognize now that not everyone's going to be happy, and that's just the way it is, but I am really trying to make this work, and so I would appreciate as much support as I can get and as much constructive criticism so we can try to make things better. Things are not perfect. I'm the first one to admit that, but I'm trying to make it better, and I think collectively we can all work on that. So in that spirit, if there's nothing further for us, we will adjourn and have our next meeting at some time that works for everyone, and we will make that work.
Very good.
Okay? All business having been concluded, we'll adjourn the meeting at 4:53. Meeting is adjourned.
Sun still shining?
Somewhere. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian.
I think Bruce is okay. You're okay.
Yeah.